All right. Well, that's exciting. Welcome, everyone. I hope everyone is having a great day. My name is Skander. I'm the solution lead for embedded analytics here at Google Cloud. Today, you are tuning in into part 3 of our data monetization strategies webinar series. We'll be sitting down today with Athena, who is an associate BI manager for Drizly, to talk about how they approach data monetization and establish themselves as thought leaders in the alcohol and beverage industry. I would like to add a personal note. I think I'm super excited you're here today. But also, I would like to also go a little bit back in time, because for those of you who missed the webinars, the first webinar, because it's like a 3-series webinar, you can find the link to the on-demand webinar in the resources section, along with additional resources to help you explore monetization strategies. Also, at the bottom of this webinar portal, you'll see a QA box. Feel free to ask us any question along this webinar, and we'll take the time to answer those questions with Athena. Athena, without waiting, can you please introduce yourself to the audience and give us a little bit more about you, just so we get to know you better?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you again, Skander, and thank you to the Looker team for having me on this event today. So my name is Athena. I'm an associate BI manager here at Drizly, the nation's largest online marketplace for alcohol, and I lead the strategic partnerships analytics team. Prior to Drizly, which I've been at for a little over 2 years now, I worked in healthcare software. I have a degree in mechanical engineering and a master's in innovation, entrepreneurship, and management. And a fun fact about me is that when I was a kid, my parents actually owned a liquor store in Connecticut. And so I am in the alcohol industry once again, but I did technically grow up as part of it. So it's really neat to see this side of the alcohol industry.
Well, so we can call you a subject matter expert.
Yes, and as much as a 4-year-old is an expert on selling alcohol.
On the business side, of course, not on the product necessarily.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. And again, you welcome here, and I'm sure everyone who is listening to us, everyone that listen to us are working on their data product, and today it's going to be super valuable. We came up with a few questions, and let's dive right into it. So can you tell us more about the product that you're managing? And because everyone is talking about data product, can you just help us understanding the audience, and also what kind of information we can find in the data product that you're managing particularly?
Yes. So as I mentioned, I lead strategic partnerships analytics, and strategic partnerships is an intentionally broad term, but historically it has primarily meant alcohol suppliers, companies like Diageo, Constellation, Brown-Forman, Pernod Ricard, and others. They own several brands that produce different kinds of alcohol. So these are the partners that we're working with right now with our data product. The data product itself is a set of dashboards that are available for purchase, essentially by these suppliers. And we include data on sales, inventory availability, customer demographics, category trends, and so much more. And so we're able to provide insights on who's purchasing their products directly to these suppliers. And so right now, the product itself is built by 2 people, myself and my team at Victoria Washington, who is an absolute rock star. Shout out to her. But we do have a broader group of almost 20 people on the analytics team that all contribute to our Looker instance, and we can leverage that within the data product. And as a note, the analytics team at Drizly is hiring, including on my own team.
Wow. For those who listen and are interested, check out Drizly and check out the hiring page. Obviously, you and Victoria are both rock stars. I can assess that. So you be sure to join a fantastic team. And we are very impressed, by the way, by such a small team and such a huge impact, because you guys are really thought leader in the space, and we'll come back to that. And so you talked about dashboards. So I imagine those dashboards are not homegrown, and of course, you know that I work for Looker, but in which capacity have you leveraged embedded analytics to get more value to your data?
Yeah, so we use embedded analytics as a way to provide a separation between the Looker that we use internally for our own day-to-day operations, but to also continue to share this same data in a different format to our supplier partners. And so using embedded analytics, we're able to provide actionable data to all sized partners. And personally, the best part about it is how scalable it is. We can now provide and price our data product and reach a very large customer base with a variety of offerings.
Oh, that's very impressive. And I think that's more like another question that I have for you, but you told me, even when we were chatting back then, you were saying like there was like a nice reusability from your business intelligence team about the insights that you harvest with your BI, and that then you basically productize to your suppliers. Is that correct? And
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, it flows seamlessly from one to the other.
Nice. And I think that's really almost the perfect the perfect flow. Was the product already in flight when you joined, or just to get a sense of the genesis of this product and when you joined, and what's the ongoing activity for you now on this product?
Yes. So we've sold data to our supplier partners for a while. And when we switched to Looker in 2020, we wanted to provide this monetized experience to suppliers within the new platform. And so I became the lead of strategic partnerships analytics earlier this year. And so I inherited an existing data product. But I will emphasize that we've had multiple iterations of this offering throughout the years. And right now where we are is a great offering that's built on a great foundation. And so with Victoria, we're making constant updates to this data product to continue to build it out, add more tiers, add more dashboards to it, and ultimately reach more partners.
And we'll come back to the tiers and obviously the monetization strategy, because that's fascinating, right? And we like taking data. Obviously, everybody talks about data as an asset and monetizing it. And before we dive into, and also I have questions for you on the pricing and everything. We want to talk about money today, right? But what was the driver, like initially, to build a data product for your suppliers? Like, I'm just thinking of like you have a mobile app, so you have B2C, and then you say, well, we're going to create a new revenue stream or a new business, almost net new business to your suppliers. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So for anyone who is attending today and is unfamiliar with the alcohol system in the United States, long story short, it's incredibly complicated and there's a ton of regulations, but there is this thing called the 3-tier system, and it prevents suppliers from directly selling their products to consumers. And so it has to go from supplier to distributor to retailer to customer. And so because of that long chain, there's a lack of visibility from the manufacturers of the product to the consumers. And so because we are 3-tier compliant, but we're not any of those existing entities, we're able to operate outside of the 3 tiers, and we're able to see more information about the retailer and the customer and share those insights with the suppliers so that they can better tailor their product offering.
No, that's fascinating. Like you really closed the gap, and yeah, it's completely regulated. So that totally makes sense. Thanks for educating us on this industry, which we frankly I didn't know much before meeting you guys. Also, from a productization standpoint, we often think, and our customers always come to us and basically don't necessarily know how to get started. Like, how did you prototype? Did you go through like an MVP? Can you tell us more about really like the kind of like the life cycle of the product from the seed to what it is today?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned before, we did offer dashboards within another data visualization platform. And then when we transitioned to Looker internally, we decided to work backward from customer requests and needs in order to offer an MVP to a handful of partners. Since they were still getting that data through the other platform, we wanted to have a period of time where they were able to access both before we cut everyone over to the Looker side. And so there was a transition period where we were trying to reach parity with what existed in the other place. But where we are right now is definitely far and above where we were before, due to the speed of I guess, ability to edit and improve the offering. So we did start with a handful of partners and with an MVP. And then once we got it to be a standalone offering, we have sunsetted the previous system and now exclusively operate with this one.
Oh, well, congrats. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of work. I mean, you say it so linearly, but I'm sure there is so much work and back and forth with your suppliers to understand that. So congrats to reach this, I would say, peak performance level.
Thank you.
A lot of course, a lot of our customers, you know, when we kind of like break the seal of like the technological aspect, like, you know, like the scale and obviously, you know, it's very technological oriented, but a lot of customers come to us about how should we price it? Like what's the monetary value associated to my offering? And you know, should I tier my offer? Like, and really, can you provide to me and this audience like some advice, some, you know, tactical and strategical approach that you've employed in order to go to market and price it accordingly?
Yeah, of course. So the tiers allowed us to go to market, and it allows us to engage with a variety of partners at levels that they're comfortable with. So we can provide more data to the bigger players, but they also pay more because they are getting more data in return as part of their partnership. And so in terms of pricing, we roughly knew the magnitude of data in the industry. And because we have such a unique data offering, we price it accordingly. As I mentioned before, this like doesn't really exist in elsewhere outside of Drizly because of the 3-tier system. And so we knew that we were bringing something incredibly valuable to market. So the value that we have is in the data, and the cost to build and maintain the dashboard is not the primary consideration when we price out the tiers, because like certainly it does have a cost associated with it, but really what we're building is a way to surface this is the value, which is in the data. So my recommendation is that you really take the time to understand the value and uniqueness of your own data to your partners, figure out what problems that the data solves for them and what they're willing to pay for those solutions.
Oh, thank you. I mean, those advice are obviously coming from you are obviously gold, because oftentimes we really look at, of course, the total cost of ownership of a platform that you embed, etc. So going back to the monetization strategy, first and foremost, you focus on the value of on the insights you deliver. So I bet the audience will appreciate those advice. And you know, you talked, you explained us the third-party system. Can you tell us because we're all data people here, what are the challenges you've encountered, particularly, you know, everything associated to this industry? Because you said, well, there are basically challenges between, you know, the suppliers and the end consumer to harvest data. What is it concretely that you've encountered?
Yeah, so there are a number of things we've had to navigate and regulations that we've had to work around in order to provide this data offering. There are regulations around sharing raw data for certain things. And so we have to figure out what we can share raw rows of data for and what needs to be aggregated. For example, we can't share full sales data at the retailer level. We can only aggregate by region. So there's like certain information that we can share from a retailer, and then certain information that has to be obfuscated in some way. So we have ways around that, using it to build that into our product to make sure that the dashboard is very highly controlled, so that there's no risk of them downloading the raw data that's powering an aggregated view. There's also different data needs for suppliers and for brands. And so we needed to come up with a different set of offerings that would meet both sets of needs. And just for a reminder, a supplier owns many brands. So it needs to work for one brand or for many. And so we also want to be able to help the full supply chain use our data to optimize against inventory, which is a huge part of our offering, is saying where products are in and out of stock. And that has huge implications for us, because if products are out of stock, that's less that we can sell on Drizly. So we have an incentive also to get this in the hand of suppliers, who can then take action and provide product to distributors, who can then get that into stores.
That totally makes sense. And I think I'll have a question for you around that, around your product, actually, and some of the roadmap, because I'm sure there are some implication in the roadmap, so you can provide maybe more recommendation and basically build your product always smarter to help your suppliers grow. We'll get back to that. In the meantime, how have those regulations affected how the way you design the product? Like, can you tell us more about it? Because I understand around all the granularity level, the permissioning, but from a product standpoint, how have you coped with that?
So we partnered with a company called HashPath, an analytics consulting firm, and we used their white label data product to wrap our embedded Looker instance. And this allows us to have even more control over the experience. Specifically, as I mentioned before, not everything can be downloaded at the row level. And so there are certain things that must be visualized, grouped by location or by month or something, anything but retailer, really. So we need to have control over how people can interact with the dashboards. And it also allows us to brand the data product with the familiar Drizly look and feel. So it feels like an extension of Drizly itself.
But that makes perfect sense on the front end, like all the permissions, the themes, the UI, which I'm sure is also super important, making a beautiful product. Now that we've talked about the front end, can you also tell us, like, on the back end? Because there's so many. Of course, we want to talk about monetization, but technology is at core. Like, turning this data into information is so important. So we want to understand also how did you transform this data? You've been using Looker, any other third-party tools, like just to understand better your data stack and how you actually tackle all those data challenges.
So we use dbt primarily for data modeling, and we take the output, and then that gets directly put into our Looker instance. So we do some work in LookML, but mostly it's the things that need to happen for certain types of visualization, such as parameters. But where Looker really is helpful for us is the permissioning layer, so we can control the experience for different users. And because we do have separate versions of data sets that are exclusively used for supplier use cases, we do have some additional filters that we use within Looker so that we can curate the experience without affecting the base table that's used by internal Drizly employees.
Completely makes sense. Thank you for sharing with us like some insights around your data stack. It's always useful. And from now let's go back to your customers. How did your suppliers respond to your analytics product when you approached them with it? Because maybe was it new? Was it like tell us more about it.
They always want more. They're never satisfied with anything that we can give them, just because there's so much that they want to know, which is great to have such engaged and active partners, people who really trust us to be thought leaders. They do come to us to learn more about trends and performance, and they're constantly asking for more because of our unique position within the industry and because we have such unique information. So Drizly Marketing also has a publication called BevAlc Insights, and they publish some of these trends there. But we aim between BevAlc Insights and the supplier data product to provide actionable insights for these partners, whether it's for distribution or for advertising or for new product development. We want to make sure that they are able to use our data in a way that helps them grow their business and in turn helps promote the Drizly platform as well.
Oh, that's seriously awesome. Like, we're becoming this almost like market. I mean, you really have all the market trend data, and you can serve pretty much all stakeholders on this industry. And so this question is more about, and it's a little granular. It's about, of course, our tool, Looker. I was actually curious to know what features have you found or have your customers found the most valuable?
So just like for me personally, being able to set up the data product, something like user attributes is like invaluable to me, because that allows us to control the experience per user. Once they log in, everything is automatically filtered to what we call company ID, which is the supplier itself. So we set that within the user account, and then when they log in, everything is customized to their own view automatically, which is wonderful. I'll also just say, like, maybe this is a cop-out, but Looker is just very easy to use as well. And so the general like usability allows for really rapid development. And so we're able to iterate quite quickly. And within the development mode, we can make changes to dashboards, test out how they would look, and then make sure that that gets pushed to prod so that the end users are able to see it. But really fast iteration there. And then finally, something that we're looking to use more for the data product itself is alerting, so that if we can set these alerts internally, if we notice, for example, sales dropping for a certain supplier by a certain amount, that account manager for that supplier will get an email or a Slack notification or something letting them know that they should dig into this and reach out to their supplier before the supplier reaches out to us.
Oh, I mean, thank you so much for those feedback on the product. I'm sure that whoever on the product team is listening to us, I'm sure they'll be happy to hear all of that. And for you who are listening to us, yes, those alerting capabilities, like really informing customers where they need it, like not necessarily being on the dashboard, but receiving an email is tremendously valuable. Now, from a go-to-market standpoint, like how did you push this offering to your market? Because now you have your product, you have the data, you solve all the regulation. I mean, are you working on all those regulation? How did you go to market? Can you give us some pointers, and maybe some of people on the audience will learn about it?
I think that we had a probably easier time with this than others might have, just because we were already engaged with suppliers through other partnership opportunities. So we just shared the tier offerings with our existing partners. They were already partnering with us on things like advertising, for example. And so it was, we already had their contact. We already knew who the right people were to talk to. So we've treated it very much as a collaborative project, especially in the early stages when we were working with these major partners of ours, trying to figure out what they needed, how we can meet those needs, and we are innovating and iterating on the data product together with their feedback. But any partner who signs up now does get access to an ever-improving product, and so we are continuing to leverage this as an offering to any brand who engages with Drizly at any level.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, it's super insightful. So yeah, really working along your ecosystem, your clients, and shaping the product with them to answer their need. I mean, as obvious as it sounds, it's good to be reminded. And speaking of your product and the product stack now, I would love to know more about the future vision of your product offering, and even if you're aware of any new product offering, not necessarily for suppliers. So I know it's a double-folded question, but first on your vision for your existing product, and maybe if you can give us some colors on what's in the R&D side of the house.
Of course. So starting with the existing data product for suppliers, something that I'm personally really excited about is our partnership with the data science team at Drizly. We just hired a strategic partnerships data scientist who will help me and Victoria work on this project full time. And we are looking to add in things like predictive outputs into the data product. So when these data science models are built, we can feed that into Looker and then share the results with suppliers. And as an example, I've talked before about inventory stock statuses, but if we have stock forecasting, we're able to tell suppliers in advance where they're going to be out of stock for certain products so that they can meet that need before it becomes a problem for us, before it's too late and the product is already out of stock. So getting these forecasts will be a really useful tool for us internally, but also to share with suppliers. And then to the second part of your question, what's my vision for data products at Drizly? We have been engaged pretty heavily with suppliers for many years now, but they're not the only major player in the alcohol space. And so we're looking to come up with an offering for distributors next. And then what I'd like to see is just a general industry-wide trends platform so that we can partner with other non-specific entities, but who are looking for major trends or information that is beyond what we would provide for free within the About Insights newsletter.
Totally makes sense, and yeah, it sounds like you have a lot on your plate. So thank you for sharing with that. on the, because we talked a lot about freemium, and I think, with our customers, we always talk about freemium, and sometimes we let some customers, not accessing some valuable data. So of course, where I want to talk about, because, at Looker, we always talk about democratizing data, democratizing insights. And I know, of course, you are a business, you are profitable. How are you approaching helping I would say the lower end, from a revenue standpoint, suppliers? Like, have you thought about that? How are you addressing it? Because I'm sure you want them to grow. So can you tell us how you're approaching it, how you help them with your product?
Yeah, thank you for this question. This is something that I'm really excited about at Drizly, because we are definitely trying to create an equitable playing field for brands and suppliers of all sizes. And historically, we've only been able to really support these large players due to the manual nature of all of the work that we do with them. And now that we have this scalable platform, it's finally a possibility for us to come up with an offering for the long tail suppliers and brands that we have on our platform. And so we're still trying to work out the specifics of what that would look like in terms of cost, in terms of partnership level. But ultimately, it would be a win-win for Drizly if we were to share these insights with suppliers, because it improves the engagement that we see with brands who have data access, and it provides a feedback loop if they are also partnering with us on advertising. For example, if they pay for an ad on Drizly.com, they can use the data platform to then track their performance and see the impact that that advertisement had, and as a result, be more inclined to place more ads with us to see the growth of their brand over time. And then also, we know that not every brand has a full BI team in-house, and some of them do, and they're quite large. But by offering a lower cost data solution, we can leverage our network of insights to support these smaller or newer brands who are looking to grow and aren't ready to invest in a full analytics team of their own.
That's fascinating, and it's interesting because you're talking about ad tech. You're really talking about multiple products and being like this, I would say, single entry point where you're going to be able to serve on many capabilities. Because their core business is not necessarily BI and turning all this data. And I'm sure there's so much complexity as well that you take on, and you abstract all this complexity for them and deliver it. So. This is fascinating. This is a big challenge, also a lot of responsibilities for your suppliers. And so, because we are in the business of data, we know how important it is. Economically speaking, Athena, I would say, this interview couldn't be complete because we talk always about profit, going to market, always making money. We want to know a little bit more about, I always say, like the monetizing data makes sense when your total cost of ownership is controlled, right? If you make a lot of money and you spend a lot on your platform, can you help us understand how embedding a solution such as Looker has helped you controlling these costs and how?
Sure. So I will say that our data product is incredibly profitable based on the costs that we have, and then the benefit of having so many suppliers who are willing to partner with us and buy into this offering. It's cheaper for us to use the embedded Looker platform as opposed to getting seats for them within the internal Looker offering. And it's also easier for us to manage those users and the product itself within the white label data product from HashPath. So between these two systems, we have a very efficient way of adding users to the product itself. And additionally, I'll mention that by standardizing the offering, we're able to save valuable development time. But so when we add a new dashboard type, it can immediately be shared with all suppliers, and the time that's required to add a new supplier group or individual user is a very low lift for us. So that's quite an easy task to do with a great payoff for someone who is going to be an engaged user of the platform. So we are able to operate very quickly and efficiently as a team of only 2 people.
Yeah, that's super impressive, and thank you for adding colors around the total cost of ownership and actually from innovation to product, how fast it is. Now, we talked about, I would say, your monetization framework, and when it comes down to because you're here in the capacity, of course, of Drizly, but also we would like, from your experience, are there any tips that you can provide to our audience to get a better ROI for their data? And really, like, from professional to professional, any advice that you can give us to harvest the most of, from an economic standpoint, of our data?
Yeah, so I think don't limit yourself is my first piece of advice. Oftentimes, the part of the organization that you're talking to about data is not the only consumer of the data that you have to offer. So when we started working with the e-com teams within a supplier business, because that's the part that they thought that they, were focused on, we realized very quickly that we could offer something to their media team and their marketing team as well. The product development teams could benefit from our data. And so there are a lot of different parts of an organization that can use the data you're providing, not just the team that's directly engaging with you. So I recommend definitely building stronger relationships, certainly between the data teams, so that you can understand the nuances of the different types of business. Because, I'm not, despite having grown up in the alcohol industry, I'm not an expert at all things supplier. And so I'm very reliant on these conversations with our data consumers to understand more about what they need and how I can help them. And also, as part of those conversations and as the seller of the data, I get to hear how the data is being used, how the dashboard has helped them change their business model, and we can then use that feedback to guide other suppliers on best practices. So it does improve the experience overall and what we're able to offer, because you're able to take the best advice from each supplier and share that with the rest of the group.
I think I'm speaking on the behalf of the audience. Thank you so much. This is super useful. There are things also that, and I think I've confessed that, Athena, there are a lot of things I've learned in my role, helping other customers from you and your team. So I'm very, very grateful for, I always say we learn more about our customers, and we also sometimes learn better about our product in the shape and form that you uses us with your own words. So thank you on the behalf of everyone. I think it's going to be time, Athena, if you're ready, that we take questions from the audience. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and open the question. And if you guys didn't have time yet, please don't hesitate to write questions for Athena or myself. So we have a question from Pooja, who works at Amazon. Can you share how has Drizly leveraged Looker to build and distribute attribution-based metric for ads?
So this was actually a really interesting project that we had to do because for attribution, we were using things like UTMs, and the UTM itself used custom strings that were created by each supplier or each brand, and there was no way to automatically tag that back to the supplier, which is the only way that we're able to automate the reporting. So I worked with our marketing team, and they in turn worked with all of the supplier media teams to customize a standard format for UTMs so that we can parse out the company ID from the UTM itself and then connect that within the database to that supplier in the back end. And so we're able to have an attribution dashboard on campaigns specifically, where they can see what UTMs or what links were clicked on, what sales were attributed from that click. And we also have a separate tier as a result that's only for media users. Sometimes suppliers partner with external media teams, and they shouldn't have access to things like sales data. So we have a custom tier where only campaign tracked information goes, and it's now thanks to this automated mapping system that they can get the data automatically.
Thank you so much. And Pooja, let us know if it has answered or if you have any follow-up question on that. Now, Athena, I have a product question. Look from let me read from Joseph, who works at Sembaf Safety. Looker is so feature-rich. How do you think about how you can get the most out of the platform, use functionality as a pull mechanism for functionality, versus having a concept first and finding a way to create it within Looker platform?
I'm trying to understand what's being asked here. So how do I think about getting the most out of the platform?
use functionality as a pull mechanism for functionality,
okay,
versus having a concept first and finding a way to create it within Looker platform?
Okay. I think that we definitely do more of the latter, where we have the concept first. And a lot of this is because we get requests directly from suppliers who are not always familiar with Looker and what Looker can do. And so this is one of the challenges that we have right now, is where we're trying to be product first, but we also are in an element service first, service data as a service rather than data as a product. So we're trying to balance the two. And I think when we think about things like having a concept first and then trying to make it a reality, certainly a lot of what we do ends up being that way, because we are trying to meet the needs of this very niche industry and request. But there are certainly things that we're seeing now with the new updates to Looker and new offerings. Like there is a forecast feature. We're like, oh, how can we pull that in? How can we automatically build out sales forecasting for the next few months so that suppliers don't even have to ask us for this anymore? It's just built into the tool. So definitely a balance and a little bit of both. I'd say we lean more toward the concept and then figuring out how to make it work. But with all of the things that Looker is coming out with, certainly there's value in switching to the other way around.
Perfect. We'll move to the next question from Cleo. Thank you, Athena and Skander. Cleo, you're welcome. A question for Athena. How did you secure data when sharing data with third-party vendor on Looker? I previously did something similar, but would like to learn if there is an alternative.
So I'm probably not the best person to talk about this. I mean, everything that we do has to get passed through our legal team. So Esteban, if you're watching, thank you for all you do, because I know we spend a lot of our days emailing each other about what we can and cannot share and how it can or cannot be shared. Yeah, I think that this is perhaps a question that we can answer with more detail after the fact, because I don't want to give any incorrect information, since it's not something that I personally am, the one who leads.
And no worries. And also, Cleo, feel free also to reach out to the Looker team. We can also address any security question and help you on those. We have a question from Vivino. Thank you, Luis, for your question. Can you share more about the team involved building the data product?
You're looking at half of it. So hello. Let's see. So we have, I can't say that, because a lot of what we do, myself and Victoria, we are able to pull from things that other parts of the analytics team is putting together and building. We have a team that's working on really cool insights that are around our clickstream data, but myself personally and Victoria, we are, I guess, profiled as analytics engineers in terms of our skill set. Definitely spend a lot of time doing DBT, definitely a lot of time doing LookML. I'm not sure what specifically you wanted to know about the team, but it is me and Victoria. And now we have our new data scientist who's going to be joining us, and hopefully a senior analyst who will be joining us later this year.
Yeah, I think there's just a follow-up question from Luis. What was the analytics consulting team that you mentioned earlier?
Oh, I thought you meant internally who's building the data product.
Okay,
Okay, yes.
He asked internal, and then he wanted to know more about now the consulting. He wants to know everything. And we want to know everything.
Everyone. Okay,
so you can disclose, of course. So feel free. Of course, I always, when we ask this question, we know, sometimes you guys have NDA and everything. So always feel comfortable to answer with what you can disclose.
Yeah, so the team that we were partnering with to build the data product is called, or they might have renamed as Topcoat, and I should have just checked this beforehand, but Hashpath, aka possibly Topcoat Data. They are the consultants that we worked with, and they do work a lot with Looker. And so we have been partnering with them since mid to late 2020, and really, really wonderful team to work with. And so they use their white label data product to provide a platform for us to plug in our embedded Looker.
Thank you, Athena. I have a question from Riley, who works at Lucid. How does user profile demographic data play into your data monetization strategy? For example, does knowing more than just basics like age, gender, location, perhaps ethnicity and household income, add values to your supplier?
mean, I don't think I can emphasize this enough, just like truly how difficult it is to learn things about your customers within the 3-tier system because of the many layers between the supplier who produces the product and then the end consumer. And historically, the way that it's worked is the supplier sells to the distributors sell to the retailers sell to the customers. And because the retailers, speaking from the child of some myself, they're not always super tech savvy. They don't have like very advanced point of sale systems. And so there's not a ton like to learn or available out there because there's a lot of like walk-in traffic. Historically, like e-com didn't come to alcohol until really Drizly showed up. So what we're providing with this demographic information is very difficult for them to learn elsewhere. And so by sharing information about the gender breakdown or the household income of their customers, that's really helpful for them to understand how they should be targeting users or customers rather, and how they should be working on new product development to appeal to these new populations.
Thank you, Athena, and we have I think we can take on 2 more questions. I mean, first of all, I can see the list of questions, so it keeps going on. We have a question from Joe who works at Olo, OLO. What is the number of Looker licenses at Drizly? Oh wow, very precise question. But I think the main question is approximately how do you split the licenses between regular developers, so people who are going to edit the LookML, etc., and people who are more like business users. I don't know if Joe would agree, but I think even like a percentage or a distribution makes probably more sense than a hard number.
Yeah, Esteban, sorry, I'm not going to give any like specifics about how many users we have of the data product itself, but what I can tell you is that everyone on the analytics team has a developer license for Looker, and then we have some like various levels of permissioning within internal users, and then all of our supplier partners who use the data product are external viewers. And that's the type of license that they have. And so that one, I mean, we can have really as many as we can support by adding the new accounts. So as we add new suppliers within each tier offering, there are like anywhere between 2 to 15 or more seats available as part of their package. And so whenever we sign in a new supplier, that's adding, a handful of seats at least.
Thank you so much for sharing with us on that, Athena. We have one question from Lauren, who works at Better Mortgage. Thank you, Lauren, for your question. How does Drizly manage data integrity with the various developers? Code writing, quality, accuracy.
Good question. So as I mentioned, we use dbt, and dbt is an amazing tool if you haven't used it before, but we go through a rigorous code review process for everything that we build. Anything that is net new data has to be, discussed with the larger team to figure out how to, how to best represent it. I'm not sure what else there is to say, really. I mean, we're definitely, we have data tests through dbt. We have alerts that get published within Slack so that we can see if any of our tests have failed. But we do keep very up to date to make sure that we're only maintaining accurate data within our code base or database.
Thank you, Athena. Thank you so much. And that was actually the last question. There's one more question I think that been asked is, can we get the link of this recording? Of course, for everyone who attended today, and again, we're both very grateful for you attending us. Feel free to ask us questions, but yeah, you will receive the recording. On that, you will also find a lot of resources online on this webinar series. You will find an ebook. You also can work with our team to talk and work through your monetization strategy. But Athena, first and foremost, and on the behalf of everyone at Looker, I want to thank you for taking the time today. I know you're very busy, so thank you for carving some time for us and for our colleagues and peers in the industry. So thank you so much, Athena.
Thank you so much, Skander. It's been my pleasure being here. And obviously, if I wasn't a huge fan of what you're doing at Looker, I wouldn't be here. So thank you again for having me here, but it's really my pleasure.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, Athena. Bye.
And you too. Bye.